So with Warlords of Draenor coming out in a mere 2 months, and patch 6.0 coming out in perhaps just over a month, I thought that it was about time I made a video highlighting some ways to prepare for the new expansion, and also some things that you might want to do before the expansion and its pre-patch drops. We really don't have much time until this expansion comes out, so if you really want to do some of this stuff, you're going to have to be rather quick about it. Now, this list is in no particular order because it's basically impossible to rank this stuff in any objective way because different things will mean different things to different people, but what I will say is that the point about alts is going to be really prudent in Warlords of Draenor. Trust me, played the beta. Anyway, so with all that stuff said, let's get on to the list. And first up we have the, fact that it's going to be really beneficial to get some alts before Warlords of Draenor comes out. You see, each alt is going to have access to its own personal garrison. Now, garrisons are going to be used to earn gear and a decent bit of gold, so if you have multiple garrisons, it's going to be quite lucrative, in fact. Now, I'd say that if you're really into professions and you want to get, professions up in multiple alts, that's absolutely worth doing, but even just having an alt for the sake of running another set of garrison missions could be lucrative. I mean, every day I'd say you could probably earn a few hundred gold per character, per garrison, only if you do the missions. And on top of that, for the garrisons, they even have their own mining place and herbalism place where you can pick up ore and herbs without needing herbalism or mining. You can just get the materials for free. Lots of free stuff. So if you've got multiple alts, maybe if you have 5 or 6 or 7 or even 10 garrisons running, you're going to be, providing you put in the daily work, sort of rolling in it, perhaps depending on how the economy goes. Now, in terms of the alt leveling itself, you could just go and level to level 90 if you really wanted to, but my personal recommendation is to level your alts to level 85. It's likely that the Mists of Pandaria XP will be squished from level 85 to 90, so doing that right now might not be a really efficient thing to do. Just like when MoP came out, the Cataclysm XP requirement was nerfed. Then also in Mists of Pandaria, they added a 300% XP potion. Now, that lasted until 85, so it wore off for the new content, but if they add an XP potion in Warlords of Draenor, it is safe to assume that it would work up to level 90. Now, I haven't seen anything of the sort on the beta, but it's always a possibility. Anyway, there you go. Alts are going to give you access to more garrisons, and garrisons will give you money and lovely things, which you want, so that's probably a thing you should do. So the next thing that you will want to do is get some gold. Now, gold is actually going to be used to upgrade a multitude of your garrison buildings. Now, look, this stuff is not insanely expensive, and you will have quite a few ways to earn gold in Warlords of Draenor. For an example, your garrison will give you missions, it'll give you access to the mining place, the herbalism place, and then of course all the profession-based buildings, and lots of stuff essentially. You can go check out my garrison building videos if you want to learn more. But here's the thing, if you absolutely want to access the stuff as quickly as possible, and to get as much of a head start as you can, then it's probably worth having a bit of gold saved up. Nothing crazy, and you should also just bear in mind that gold is going to decrease in value due to inflation. That's how it goes with every expansion, and because they have added so many kind of passive ways of earning gold, i.e. you get gold from doing dungeons and lots of things that are not farming in the auction house, so the inflation I actually think might be quite stark. But the thing is, if you want to get all these buildings ultra quick, then you will want to have some gold going into the expansion. Now in terms of building costs, it looks like a level 3 building is going to cost around 300 gold each. The level 3 garrison upgrade itself, I believe, costs 5,000 gold, and yeah, it's not crazy, and a lot of that gold you will probably earn while you're leveling up, but if you're an absolute bleeding edge person who wants everything as fast as possible, then I would recommend doing it. Now, one reason why you would want to have all these garrison buildings upgraded as fast as you can is because, well, basically, they give you perks and things like that that are going to help you out on the way in Draenor. Of course, the single character cost may not seem like a lot, but if you plan on garrisoning up maybe 5, 6, or 7 characters all at once, that's certainly going to add up. I don't really know if the current beta prices are going to be final, so it really is hard to say how much you should get in total, but I'd say 20k to 40k would probably be enough to just buy everything, and honestly, you'd probably earn a decent bit of that back quick enough. This is just simply so you get a big head start. Now, one other point about gold is that when 6.0 hits, they're removing Valor points and Justice points. This means that all Justice heirlooms are going to cost gold. Currently, I think the value's in around 400 gold each, and all of the Valor epics from Pandaria will cost, I believe, between, it's like 50 and 400 gold. Basically, it's all cheap, and it can all be purchased with gold, so if you want to get into patch 6.0, get a full set of gear, maybe transmog up some of your alts so you can level them during patch 6.0, then you'll probably want to get some gold between now and then, so you can maximize that time before the expansion hits. So the next thing that you should probably do is mount related. Now the Water Strider mount involves getting Angler's Rep up to Exalted, and you can find any video guides on that on the internet, or perhaps Wowhead or someone like that will have a guide. Now the reason why you want the Water Strider is because, well, it strides on water, oddly enough. Of course, in Warlords of Draenor, there is going to be no flying. This means that being able to just walk over water is actually really, really useful. On the beta, we actually have access to every mount in the game, and I've noticed that I have been using the Water Strider a lot because of its water walking abilities. You know, there's a number of zones where you maybe have things like rivers and lakes and stuff, and it's just very useful to be able to run over it on your mount. I know that some classes have got, say, Path of Frost equivalent spells, but for those classes that don't, it would be nice to have the Water Strider, and yeah, that'll certainly help you out. Another thing that you will probably want to get done on at least one of your characters is the challenge modes. Now, the challenge mode mounts and gear will be gone in patch 6.0, as the various class changes will basically alter the relative difficulty level in comparison to the majority of Mists of Pandaria. Now, the good news here is that if you have one of the mounts, you will actually get the other three for free when patch 6.0 hits. Now then, you get the mounts from a silver medal in every single Pandaria dungeon, and you get a transmog set for whatever character you do it on from the gold achievement. You also get a whole bunch of basically like these spells which let you port directly to the dungeon, so I suppose that could be useful for just, I don't know, going back to Pandaria during Warlords if that's really a thing you want to do. Yeah, so there you go. Challenge mode's totally worth doing, and this is going to be your last chance to get that unique challenge mode gear. There are lots of guides to doing challenge modes on the internet. I think I've got one or two on the channel from ages ago, so there is plenty of help out there to get you started. I would also recommend having a serious look at your add-on setup and then also your gaming peripherals. This is something you should do anyway all the time, but now that there is a little bit of downtime for you to just chill out and, you know, test things out, this is probably a good time to mention it. So first of all, in terms of your in-game add-ons, you want to just ensure that you've got a good setup. So you want something better than the default unit frames and things like that that Blizzard have. I'd recommend getting a mod like, say, Bartender, and then also things like SCADA for checking your DPS, Deadly Boss mods, which I'm sure you all have, and then Power Auras / Tell Me When. These are extremely important add-ons, and these will basically just help you just, you know about your class timings and various ability cooldowns and things like that. It's the sort of thing that you can really customize to whatever way you want. If you want to have a look at some examples of UIs that you can build, I'd recommend checking out people like Sparkhugs, Preach, etc. I know a lot of people seem to like my UI. It's not finished yet, oddly enough, but it's mainly just Bartender and Tell Me When. Now, in terms of gaming peripherals, I actually think it's extremely important to have a look at what you're doing, because if you're just using a crappy £5 mouse from your local Tesco or Walmart or something, and a really bad membrane keyboard, you're actually going to be sort of suboptimal in a way. Your peripherals are really important, and if you're playing the game for a long time, well, you don't want the wrist strain that a bad membrane keyboard would get you. We are at the stage now where you can get a good quality mechanical keyboard for a rather affordable price. If you look at, say, some of the lower end Corsair models, I think they can definitely do it. Now, in terms of mouses, I totally recommend using a MMO style mouse. I've used the Razer Naga for years now, and I couldn't go back. It's absolutely invaluable, and you can see my Razer Naga pretty much influences my UI quite heavily in the way I've got a grid set up. I just think that doing things like this can really up your DPS and up your effectiveness, because if you can interact with your computer more efficiently, and then also have more efficient access to information via a well-constructed interface, then you're just going to play a lot better and you will be more of an asset to whatever group you're in. I know this does apply to basically any point in time, but I think it's very pertinent to preparing for Warlords of Draenor. You'll want to go into an expansion being at your most efficient and being in the top of your game. Ensuring that you've got a good setup of add-ons and great gaming peripherals is absolutely a great way to ensure that. Okay, so next, this is one for the people who enjoy the lore and story of World of Warcraft. I've got to say that the Warlords of Draenor setting is a little bit confusing if you don't know exactly what's going on and how we got there. I do have a video on the channel that covers that, so you could check that out. I know that Nubble87 has got a whole bunch of other lore videos, and if you really want to get into the lore, I'd recommend reading the War Crimes novel by Christie Golden, and also the Hellscream short story that is available on the Battle.net website. These things will all give you a little bit more of just the surround information about how we actually get to Warlords of Draenor, so it's not going to spoil the expansion content, but you will hopefully actually sort of understand just what the hell's going on Draenor, because to some people it's just going to feel like we were randomly plonked in the Dark Portal, just that instead of coming out in Outland, we're now in new shiny Draenor, and it's all very confusing. The lore is actually kind of cool, and yes, it is a hyper contrivance, but as I said a while ago, it is a very well executed hyper contrivance that gets us back there. Another thing that you should really consider doing is the Siege of Orgrimmar. And basically you want to do that in normal mode if possible before patch 6.0. Now the cutting edge achievements are going to be removed. That's for both like heroic and normal. If you don't know, the cutting edge is just to kill Garrosh on normal before 6.0 hits. Now the cutting edge achievement on normal will give you the Kor'kron Warwolf. This is a new wolf model that's it's basically got one of the Warlords of Draenor wolves. It's a really cool model and you will definitely want to get that. Another point is that the Juggernaut mount that is, dropped from the heroic mode is going to have its drop rate significantly slashed, meaning that it's going to be similar to Invincible and the Ashes of Alar. With Blizzard adding a new mount achievement for 250 mounts that gives you the Fellfire Hawk, well, maybe you'll need every little bit of help you can get, and if you do have access to normal modes, then I'd certainly say the Kor'kron Warwolf is worth shooting for. Now, in terms of getting this mount, you can always try OQ, Open Raid, or Pugging or something like that. We are at that stage of the game when, things are going pretty good, and Pugs are able to clear Siege of Orgrimmar sometimes, so yeah, I'd say there'll be a pretty healthy pugging scene as people rush to get some of this stuff done before the new expansion launches. Now, this is a really important one. You should definitely learn about expansion stuff before Warlords of Draenor comes out. Honestly, the best way to prepare for Warlords of Draenor is, oddly enough, preparing for Warlords of Draenor. Watch videos, read stuff about your class, and essentially just know what the hell's going on with the expansion. Now, in terms of videos, I plan on having a class like DPS sort of impression thingy, based on the level 100 version of every class in the game. I'm currently working on a few of them at the minute. So that's the thing. You can check out Mike Preach, Preach Gaming on YouTube. You can check out his stuff. He's got great little previews of all the classes. And just in general, know what's going on with your class, so that when all these class changes happen in 6.0, you kind of understand roughly what's going on. Now, beyond that, you're going to want to learn what the endgame content's like in Warlords of Draenor. If you're a raider, it might be worth checking out some of the raid boss previews that multiple YouTubers, including myself, have posted. And yeah, it's just, be armed to the teeth with knowledge, know what's going on. When patch 6.0 comes out, I may have primer guides for all the DPS classes, or specs, and then when Warlords of Draenor itself comes out, I will endeavor to have a full DPS guide for every DPS spec. I might move on to tanking. Of course, there are lots of other great resources like Wowhead, Icy Veins, and YouTube channels like, say, Preach WoW. Really, if you go into this expansion just knowing what the hell's going on, you're going to have a way smoother time. If you can go into the Garrison feature and just know what you want to build, then that'll be great. Another thing you should check out is the Wowhead Garrison little preview things, or my preview videos for every single building. Basically, if you know all this stuff, it's going to be great, so go know it. Now, I know that spoilers are something that, does concern a lot of people. I'd say that generally you're safe enough to look at, say, the Garrison and look at the more mechanical-based things. Obviously, a lot of people are not really going to want the leveling zones and things like that to be spoiled, and honestly, in terms of leveling speed, I can't really... yeah, sure, there'll be stuff that you can min-max, but from what I hear, they're actually nerfing the idea of just AoE grinding from 90 to 100, so honestly, I don't think there'll be many secrets there. It'll just be questing up via, well, quests. It's a pretty quick leveling experience. Anyway, yeah, just know what's going on at level 100, and you will have a very smooth time. Alright, so this is a rather tentative point. I just want to say that and be very clear. And I don't know 100% how things are going to pan out with professions. However, I do know that every single profession has got a catch-up mechanic that has been added. This is likely going to lead to a pretty large decrease in the value of mats that are used to level up professions. Now, I'm not really qualified to tell you exactly what you should do, but it would seem like getting rid of at least some of your stock right now, while it is at least worth something, is a rather prudent decision. I know that I've got a whole bunch of uncommon gems on my paladin. I'm worried about what to do with them. I was originally planning on stockpiling them for leveling, just to sell to people who are trying to level up their jewel crafting, but as it turns out, jewel crafting has got a catch-up mechanic. Basically, you can find these like little scrolls or items or stuff like that on Draenor, and you can go back to one of your profession garrison buildings, and you can use that item along with some reagents to get some XP or, skill ups on your profession. That's basically going to mitigate the idea of needing to get a bunch of, say, old gems or something like that. So certainly we will have to see how this pans out. However, I think old mats are probably going to decrease in value as they will not be needed as much for leveling up professions. Oh, and I also know that a lot of people are big into selling bags, like, say, Netherweave bags and the Emberweave ones from Cataclysm. Here's the thing, though. They've actually added a building in Warlords of Draenor in the Spires of Iraq zone that you can get. It's called like the Smuggling Cove or Trading something, whatever. And one of the things that you can get from there is a 28 slot bag. And I've got to think that in combination with many other things, perhaps some of those high-end bags may not be worth as much. So yeah, it's hard to say. I'd say one market that's probably going to stay just good and happy is the transmog market and all the things that support that. And then, of course, just the end game, raiding mats and all that stuff. Also, in terms of professions, things like, say, rare gems have been changed up a little bit, so they are now really rare on bits of gear. And just in general, a lot of profession changes. If you are really into your professions, then I'd recommend checking out some of the in-depth profession guides that they've got going on at Wowhead. But I just think it's worth pointing out to everyone that there are major profession overhauls, and if you were planning on stockpiling a whole bunch of stuff, well, it may not be worth too much in Warlords. The next thing that you might want to do is get your legendary cloak and your Garrosh heirloom weapon. So the cloak itself is item level 616. This means that it is going to be very, very strong while leveling. Now the cloak's proc will actually disappear in Warlords of Draenor. I think it's at level 100 that disappears, not 100% sure on that, but anyway, it doesn't particularly matter. And there will be a item level 640 cloak that you can get via leatherworking. So basically, the legendary cloak is going to be fantastic while you're leveling up. I can confirm on the beta that it is great when you're leveling, but when you hit max level, it may not be too useful, so take that one with a grain of salt. However, if you're big into leveling quick, totally a thing you should do. Now then, as for the Garrosh heirloom, well, it's a 100% drop rate for your loot spec during patch 6.0, so you definitely want to make sure you can get that. Of course, it will also drop from, say, flexible difficulty, so the barrier to entry is not too large. Now, this weapon, again, I don't think is going to be ginormously useful at max level, but they have said that they intend for it to be pretty good while you're leveling up. And of course, a weapon is an extremely important slot. Now, if you have both the legendary cloak and the Garrosh weapon, and maybe you've got some decent Siege Rogrimmar style gear, you're just going to tear through the leveling content, and at least when you get to, doing those normal and heroic dungeons, maybe some of your old pieces will still be useful, and overall you might be in a bit of a better shape to do things. I know that the gear that you get in the Grand, which is the final zone of Warlords of Draenor, is item level 585, so it's basically like heroic Warforged stuff from Siege. One other nice thing is that you do have really good bits of gear like this. You will be able to solo kill group mobs and rares very easily in Warlords. And also, if you are competing with your guild to see who's the first to hit level 100, well, you'll probably do it. So these are of limited value, and they're kind of grindy to get, but I suppose one of them is the legendary cloak, which is pretty cool, and the other is a really cool weapon, so I guess you might want that. Oh, and one other point, the Valor quest from the legendary cloak is being removed in patch 6.0, so that does decrease the barrier to entry just a little bit. And next up, we've got one for the Warlocks. It's Green Fire. Now, Green Fire will not help you in any way, and it will be obtainable at level 100, so you're probably wondering just why the hell it's on this list. Well, it's actually going to be changed just a little bit in Warlords of Draenor. Basically, there is a title and feat of strength that you can get currently. They will be removed in Warlords. Now, the quest itself is not massively hard, and you can actually do it in level 90 boosted gear, so 483. But look, you can just look on the internet, find a bunch of guides, and go do that. If you've got a Warlock, then the title's pretty cool, and hey, feats of strength are a thing that people like, so yeah, probably worth doing. Another thing that you will probably want to do if you're into alchemy is level up fishing. Now, I know this might seem deadly boring to you, but a number of the alchemy recipes in Warlords of Draenor actually use fish. Now, don't worry, you will be able to get fish without fishing, in that you can trade in garrison resources for a limited number of fish, but still, if you want to, and you are an alchemist, fishing could be useful. Now, there's also a little bit more crossover in a few professions involving fish and meat that you get from, well, you know, killing animals and fishing fish, so those things are definitely worth bearing in mind when we move into Warlords. Alright, so another thing is that you should be aware that when patch 6.0 hits, Valor points and Justice points are being removed. Now, this means that if you have a bunch of Valor points pulled up in any of your characters, now is probably the time to upgrade whatever items you have. Of course, when 6.0 comes, you will be able to upgrade items using Lesser Charms of Fortune, and you will also be able to purchase as many Warforged seals as you want to get that extra bonus roll. But the point still stands that if you have VP, well, you'll probably want to spend it now. I don't know what sort of conversion mechanic they're going to go for, and they may switch your VP into gold, so if gold is something that's really important to you, it may just be worth waiting for an announcement on that. But yeah, if you have VP, you're going to want to work out what the hell you want to do with it now. Another thing is that if you do have, say, a whole bunch of heroic gear, or, you know, just good gear in general, if you can get it really close to 585 with your item upgrades, then you're going to have, basically, you're going to be going into Warlords of Draenor using gear that is essentially the equivalent to level 100 questing gear, and you're just going to tear through everything. So, absolutely, you want to go into the expansion with fully upgraded bits of gear. Okay, so another thing that you will probably want to do is the Brawlers Guild. Now, none of the rewards are being removed from the Brawlers Guild in Warlords of Draenor. However, the current achievements are going to turn into feats of strength, and they are then going to be replaced with a new batch of achievements. Basically, when patch 6.0 comes, it's going to be ticked over to Season 2, which is going to be balanced for level 100 characters. So if you have the level 90 achievements, then they'll be feats of strength, and you can re-earn the level 100 ones. This is pretty much a way to get, I suppose, double the achievement points if you really are into that. And of course, you get feats of strength, and that's a thing people collect, right? Now, of course, things like the Brawlers and Mushan Beast are still going to stay there. Same goes for the Fist Transmog. But one thing that they are going to do is they're going to make the Brawlers Guild ring a item level 630 item in Warlords. That's pretty cool, of course, though you can't really do that until Warlords comes out and you're level 100. While this isn't necessarily something that prepares you for Warlords of Draenor, I would recommend going around and just hunting down mounts and things like that. Basically, it's something to do before Warlords of Draenor comes out, and you can get some pretty cool rewards. Another thing is that they are adding in a new achievement for the Emerald Drake that basically requires you to get a multitude of other drakes. I will throw a screenshot of the achievement up on the screen now so you can have a look at that. But basically, if you've got all those other mounts, then when Warlords comes out, you'll get this Emerald Drake in your mail. Another reason why you'll want to get as many mounts as you can is that when when Warlords of Draenor itself comes out, when 6.0 point whatever is the release version, releases, then there will be a new achievement added, which is for getting 250 mounts. That gives you the Fellfire Hawk. Now, that's basically the Flame Talons of whatever mount from Firelands, but green and really badass, especially if you're maybe a Green Fire Warlock. That's totally worth aiming for, at least, so hey, go get mounts and things like that. And of course, that also extends to getting pets, transmog items, etc. Now's a pretty decent time to do it, because guess what? Siege of Orgrimmar lasted for, 14 months by the time Warlords comes out. So yeah, better have something to do, right? Alright, so there are the things that you should probably do before Warlords of Draenor / patch 6.0 comes out. Honestly, I'd say half of that stuff's maybe just more cosmetic / rewardy, but things like the alts, really, really important. I cannot stress enough how much alts will probably help you out in Warlords of Draenor. because of the fact that you get access to like multiple different garrisons. That's crazy. Also, gold's really going to help you out, so I'd say alts and gold are probably your best way to prepare for Warlords of Draenor. Besides that, if you really care about getting a character up fast, then ensure that you upgrade all your gear and get the legendary cloak if you can. And yeah, then it's just a case of not missing out on some of the cool stuff that's going to disappear. So overall, if you follow the stuff in this video, then you're probably going to be set. In terms of preparing for Warlords of Draenor completely, obviously the most important thing is just to learn about the expansion. And it'd be pretty pointless me doing the top 10 ways to learn about the expansion, because frankly, there's still more stuff to find in the beta. But if you want to check out my garrison videos, you know, all the coverage of the buildings and the dungeons and all that stuff, that's all on the channel. Basically, I'd say the last month or two of this channel has been, you know, sort of how to prepare for Warlords of Draenor, because you can prepare for the content pretty well if you actually watch a video of it. Anyway, that's basically it for this video. There's a lot of things you can do to prepare, and I'll see you next time.